All right, what's happening? We are back for Secret Sessions. I believe this is issue 5.
No, I think it's
But
four.
it's 4?
I think it's
Is it
four.
4?
Yeah.
No, because see, no, 1, 2, we Adam. No, issue 5. 5. Because 4 we had Troy and Adam. Issue 3 we had just Adam. So now we are here with issue 5. At least I hope it's issue 5. I'm not
Okay.
fixing to go back and I'm not fixing to go back and post and edit that, so it'll be what it'll be. Uh, anyway, start off. By the time you guys, anybody else will watch it, happy Father's Day to all the fathers that'll watch this come Wednesday when I do post this. How you guys feeling?
Well, pretty good, pretty good. A little warm, but I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good,
What's
man.
the average?
Happy to be back.
All right, man. What's the temperature there on the East Coast, Adam?
It's in the 60s. It's been pretty rainy this weekend.
Pretty rainy. This.
Yeah.
What's the average for you guys during the summer?
Dude, we've been hitting 90s these past few years. So, I mean, it's definitely gonna get hot. It's starting to already get hot. You know what I mean? So,
What about you? What about you, Alan?
We use a different system, so I just ballparking it. I think we're like usually around the 80s or 90s or what y'all will call it, but we use the other magic
Celsius?
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what the exact
yeah.
conversion is.
Yeah, so I could tell you we're about 29 Celsius. So yeah, 27 actually.
mm,
Looking at my phone.
Yeah,
27.
the U.S. still uses Fahrenheit, and I can actually tell you it is 70 degrees where I'm at here on the in the Pacific Northwest. But it's been interesting because we'll get 70 degrees in the day,
Mm.
but we could easily drop. We're dropping. It's June, and we'll drop down to 50 something degrees at night, which it's like, bro, we're in June. This is not normal, even for us. And then it's worse here because like when we did what was it last week's episode, it was like 90 something degrees, but in the Pacific Northwest, since it's usually so cool, they don't build houses with AC in them, or at least they used to not. I don't know if that's changed in the last like 10 years or so. But all right, here we are a week post Black Panther: The World to Come. It seems like some of the fervor behind that has died down, so we don't really need to get into that. But I did want to ask a question, and this was a topic that I was going to get to last week, but that book took up so much time, and we didn't even get into Alan's, not Alan, but Adam's book.
Adam's
Yeah, Adam's book. I wanted to talk about fan bashing versus loyalty and how you guys interpret that. I get asked this question, it, I have like some thoughts on it, but I'd love to hear from you guys first.
Okay, so when you say fan bashing, kind of explain what you're saying. Fans bashing the creators or creators bashing the fans?
Uh, hmm. I had a way to kind of like just constantly saying to fans like, you guys don't support us the way that you
Oh,
guys do Marvel and DC, that type of thing,
mm,
yada yada yada. Like, and oftentimes in like private chats, I tend to say that it's almost like certain creators like you want this authoritarian like loyalty, like just support me. This doesn't work because you guys don't show up and support. And the reality is like people kind of support what they like. I've tried to develop this thought process of how did I put it to you guys last week? Like, look if you're interested. No, yeah. Buy if you, yeah, look if you're interested, buy if you like it, share if you love it, you know.
yeah, yeah.
So, and
Public
that's
thought,
kind of, you
public
know,
thought.
and for me, like I believe in loyalty, but I don't believe in being a slave to loyalty, and I think sometimes there are, and I did see this pop up in various groups, like there are people starting to come out and say like, we don't want creators to like shame us into buying the
Okay.
product. Just
Yeah.
because you're black and I'm black, I'm supposed to automatically hand my money over or like the project, share it, And so that's where I kind of came up with that philosophy, or just
Okay. So to answer your question from a standpoint of a creator and some of the stresses that creators kind of go through, a lot of it comes down to the mindset of a creator also. People will say that the majority of creators are introverts, or they're more tuned in on the creation part, and it's almost like you got this thing and it's your baby kind of thing. So it's to do with kind of how long you were in the game. If you see other people uh, getting ahead, their success and that kind of thing, sometimes you will find some creators will kind of lash out and expect the audience to come, and it's not always the case. Um, so I can understand why some people will do it. It's a kind of frustration. They kind of lashing out. Is it a good thing? No. Um, it means that you kind of have to put more effort into marketing. And sometimes also it's a case of you're marketing to the wrong crowd. So if I'm pushing a horror book to a non-horror audience, I'm not going to get the feedback, or I'm not going to get the love, because I'm a creator of the same skin type as uh, my audience. So, it's about what they love. You can't force something onto somebody if they don't love it. So that's where we have to kind of change our view and try to find the audience that kind of matches the work, or kind of jump into other groups where the genre that you're writing or the genre that you're doing, it meshes more with that group.
So, Adam, before you go, uh, what was I going? I have a. You know what? Go ahead and go, Adam, because I do have a thought for that.
Yeah, I almost couldn't have said it better myself, Alan. Like that's, I think, 100% of where that comes from. Like if any creator, especially on the indie side, if we're like feeling a lack of support, or if you launch that Kickstarter and the turnout is lower than you anticipated, then it's like that's a clear sign that you need to like reevaluate how you're marketing the series. And like, I guess, I mean, the only thing I would add is just like, yeah, like how are you building a relationship with the people that support you? And like, this is something that I even need to work on myself, like, being transparent. And like, it's like, yeah, how are you like building that relationship? How are you, maintaining that email list, and whatever you do, like how are you pushing content, like all that stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And
But
something to cut, sorry to cut you off, but something that
no worries.
the audience doesn't understand, or those who are in the chat room seeing the creators kind of blow up and blow off, is it's a lot of work trying to
Yeah.
post every day. It's a lot of work trying to find new artwork, because everything is a cost. You know what I mean? It means either you have to be commissioning artwork, or it means that you have to be kind of Frankensteining the comic and cutting up pieces out of the comic book to kind of post. It means that you kind of got to keep engaging, and it's tiring, So there's more frustration. I find there's more frustration in the marketing and trying to reach the fan base, even than the actual creation of the comic book.
Yeah, like
Go ahead, Adam.
no, I was just gonna say like yeah, and to like just re-emphasizing like all like anytime you want to get a piece of concept art so you can drop it on the TL and like get some traction going, it's like that's like $100. You know what I mean? Just being transparent, like this stuff adds up so much. And like to Alan's point, it's more of like when if you see somebody lashing out, in Black comic lore, it's because they feel like nobody's supporting this book. It's because they put up like upwards probably of like 2-3 grand into this thing. And like they're, like Alan said, like they're tired. They put their time up. They've done their best. And like, regardless of how well they plan their marketing, it's like, it can be heartbreaking. Like, people, there is a saying like comics will break your heart. And that's kind of what I feel like this is. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like that's really the heartbreak part. It's like when people don't show up, where you see it feels like nobody's really paying attention. Nobody wants to read your shit. Like, why are you? You know,
Yeah.
We've all been there, I think. So, it is what it is.
Yeah. So then, that makes me think of something that like Amani said about using, well, in our personal chat, like using some traditional methods. Like we see the Kickstarters, but like traditionally promoting like what the story is about. Like we see the Kickstarter, we see it as advertising, but like we don't know what the story is about. And something, and Imani, if you watch it, I'm paraphrasing, so forgive me. He brought up a good point of like selling the actual story is something that it seems like these creators end up having to do for the first time, like when they're at a convention or whatever, because now people are walking up and now you got to tell them what the actual book is about. And that's not something that we tend to see in some of the Kickstarters.
So I could speak on that point. So what Imani said is true, and it's a bit of it comes with experience. So one of the hardest things that would happen when I first started to try to like go on shows, go on different podcasts and stuff, would be, even though I'm trying to memorize or try to think about it, when the host kind of says, "So tell me what your book is about," I just started to kind of fumble. So I had to kind of work that shit out first, so that I know, off the cuff, I could actually just kind of rattle off what my book is about. And you do find a lot of Kickstarters where, because I try to comb through the Kickstarter page, let's say once a week, to see if I catch anything that I'm interested in. And a lot of Kickstarters fail because the write-up doesn't tell you anything. It tells you the wrong stuff, as you said. Sometimes it takes too long to tell you stuff. It doesn't front load the stuff that you need to hear. There's nothing for me more frustrating when I'm going to back a book and I'm interested in the book, but I can't tell how many pages the book is, because I'm paying for a product and I need to know what I'm investing in. So when I go and I see you have your book or your PDF for X amount, I'm calculating, is this worth it? But if I can't tell how much pages it is, that's kind of a letdown for me. So you have to reach out to the creator. You have creators who are pitching their books to their existing fans. So the book is book 3, and it's just kind of like continuing from book 2. The fabulous Rihanna, whatever, is she's now battling the Cobra King, blah blah blah. Rather than
I'm
kind of saying,
interested
well,
already.
yeah, but you should kind of rope in those who are now coming on. They don't know who she is, and continue the Rihanna's, and you kind of bring in the backstory so that someone who is interested. So you find that when a creator is pitching a Kickstarter and it's only to continue to get their backers on board, they leave a lot of new backers out. And it's not sometimes that, then there's a lot of things too, like you have, you're double dipping. So you've done 1, 2, 3, but you keep packaging books together. So this person who's been backing you for how many times, they can't get the new book by itself. They have to keep rebuying the same books over and over again. So these are little things that can piss off backers or can make your kick, So I think it's a little bit of reading pages that are good pages. When I'm researching my Kickstarters, I go through pages and I like how they did this, and I just literally copy and paste it for later for me to study it, because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just look and see what interests you and why it interests you, and try to mimic that.
So, Adam, before you go, that makes me think of something, because you brought up two points. Because I definitely have done that. I have definitely looked in the few Kickstarters that I have gone and backed. I've definitely looked and been like, okay, how can I get this in this specific form without getting material that I already have? And and or checking to make sure I'm not, getting, like you said, a duplicate of material that I already have. But it makes me think, because a lot of times in these conversations, it's Marvel and DC aren't involved, but they catch strays. Like, the reality is, as big as they are, they're not looking at every little independent whatever, but they get brought up, and I'm like, why is Marvel and DC catching a stray here? That they don't have anything to do with this. They're not targeting you specifically. But would it be advantageous for, let's say, some of these indie producers to look at a Marvel previews, or I think it's DC previews, and just look at how they set that up? Like you said, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. The formula's right there. And it's the same problem that people had with the DC DC Entertainment Universe. They're like, just copy the Marvel formula. They wrote the blueprint for you. All you got to do is follow that, and you'd be okay. Instead, DC tried to reinvent the wheel and do in 5 years what Marvel Studios did in 10. And you see how that turned out. And so that got me to thinking, like, before you do it, look at the previews, look at how they talk about the story. They give you the page count, they give you the cost, they give you the creative teams. And underneath at the bottom of the page, they'll tell you, and now they add the little, or they have for several years now, they'll even show you the little variant covers and who it's from. So just as like a format and a style thing, whatever, like you can look at that and reverse engineer it to your taste.
Yep.
Thoughts, Adam?
I think so. For addressing multiple parts, addressing what Alan was talking about in terms of like what he sees when he's scrolling through Kickstarters, I think that just to kind of add on or piggyback to what you're saying, like 100% copy successful campaigns, like copy Godhood Comics, 616 Comics, like Wiseacre Comics, like look, literally, honest to God, that's what I like, being transparent. That's what I do. I'll find one of those types of campaigns, literally see how they lay it out, and then kind of just, do the same and like kind of fill in my own stuff. But in terms of like what Imani was saying about like selling, there's a problem. People have a problem with selling their stories or like pitching their stories. I would say, just from my own experience, like just on my own thing, go to conventions. Like, go to conventions, do pop-ups, do in-person events, and like get experience talking to people about your comics. Because that's personally how I learned to like develop my 30-second pitch. Super Dangerous is 19-year-old kid gets superpowers and he ends up duking it out with the U.S. government because they will not stop fucking with him. I can't.
But that's what Imani is saying. That's what he's saying, that they're having to. Yeah.
Dude, that's what is something I'll go to a convention. I will repeat for 6 hours over and over again, and I'll make $1,000. You know what I mean? Like, it's like learning how to do that. And I have one of those for each one of my books type shit. So it's like, I think going to in-person events and like learning to pitch your books can be very helpful. And then I think ultimately, like, going back to our broader point of just like a lack of, a perceived lack of support from either the Black community or the indie comic community or just everybody, like the community as a whole. I think personally, I subscribe to what a dude on Twitter who's what's his name? His name's like Tyler Carpenter. His goes like by Draw and Talk. I really disagree with a lot of his politics. I think I'm not going to talk about his politics, but the dude, I cannot take away from the fact that he knows what he's talking about when it comes to marketing as an indie comic creator. And not to like go on a rant or whatever, but basically what he says and is that building a platform, building your own platform as a creator is the ultimate answer. Like, if you want people to support your product, which is your comic book, you need to build, you need to put out and you don't need to like put out content necessarily around your stuff. You can, but it's like kind of, you need to find like whatever types of comics you're putting out or manga you're putting out, you need to make content around, the big name, like popular stuff. And you need to kind of build a brand and like build a channel and like build a machine where that puts out content around that. And then once you attract a fucking, you know, a fan, or you know what I mean, like an audience, then you kind of funnel them to your stuff. From what I understand, that's what he advocates. It's what makes sense to me. You know, I don't really do it that well, to be honest, but like I know that I believe that that is kind of the answer for creators who feel like they're having trouble getting their stuff out to supporters.
Yeah. So it makes me think of there's two things. So when you say that, it makes me think of like the George Foreman grills. If you've ever like looked into the history of that, like when they first started, they had these clips of like George Foreman fighting, kind of to insinuate that this grill will just knock out fat, and it didn't work. But then they retooled it because what they're really trying to do is sell it as a family cooking device. And when they did that, when they brought in his family, now it has the appeal to families. So that's what you said, kind of made me think of that. And then that 30-second pitch, I mean, that is something that they do teach you in film school. Like when I went to the Art Institute of Seattle, like that was one of the things they talked about is like, you got to learn the 30-second pitch, or as they say, the elevator pitch, because you got about 30 seconds and you got to sell your book. And I think that's what Amani is speaking to. Like some of these guys, they're really doing that for the first time at a con. When if in these Kickstarters or these social media posts, if you put in some of what the story is about, it makes that a little bit easier. Plus, you also, it's a convention, just like how you're going to talk to, let's say 1,500 people, just throwing a number out there. That one person is probably going to talk to almost the same amount of people. So possibly putting that in a social media post gives them a point of reference to go back to. Now, the other thing is that I know these are Black indies, you know, and they want to sell to the Black community. They really want the support of the Black community. But in our admin discussions, I've said numerous times, hey, if your own people aren't buying, then sell to whoever. Sell like you sell to, like if you got a horror book, you know, and Black horror fans aren't buying, they're not interested, then sell to horror fans. You know, hey, and if people get mad at you down the road, all you can say is, hey, look, I tried to sell to my own people. You guys weren't interested. So then I moved to the broader audience. They liked it. It is what it is.
That's something that I kind of
thinking about.
Sorry. That's something that I kind of learned. Yeah, that's something I learned this year. Or let's say in this last campaign. I don't know where I picked it up from, but someone gave me that advice. Instead of going into groups and trying to pitch to other creators or trying to get support from other creators, or even going into some of the Black comic groups, look at your book. My book was a cyberpunk adventure, science fiction. Go into the cyberpunk science fiction groups, and you don't just say, hey, I have a book. You start by just dropping some pages, and somebody organically is going to say, hey, what's this about? I would drop a cover here or drop something here, and people would just say, is this a comic, or is this for sale? And I say, yeah, I wrote it. And I was like, wow. And he just kind of started this organic interest. It's a lot of work. That's where you kind of fall off. But if you can market to the audience, so you look at what your book is and go into that group and pitch to those people, and that it has worked immensely for me. For my last campaign, I have so many new backers because of that. People that didn't back the first campaign, a lot of the people who kind of backed on my first campaign, because the truth of the matter is, your first campaign, a lot of people will back you out of pity. You hit up your friends, hey, I got a book. You want to any person says, okay, no problem. You hit people up in your DMs, you get this spamming you saying, hey, support my book. And a lot of people will come through and say, okay, but they're not really fans of the book, because afterwards, none of them have read it. They kind of just backed it to kind of get you off their back, or to kind of say, well, hey, I bought your book. And then you start to get into this cycle of backing for backs, or so you want to be able to think of yourself. You want to back a book because you like it, not because you feel pressure to do it because of support. There are people who I will support because they're my friends and I want to see them succeed, but not every stranger that hits you up, you're going to want to say, let me drop $20 just to get this guy off the ground. So it can start to become expensive. So you have to kind of look at your strategy in terms of going where the fans are versus hitting up creators. You kind of got to look at it. There's always this joke in indie communities that they kind of cycle the same $5 among each other. So you kind of got to break that cycle.
So it's you, and this is something. And Adam, you got something you want to add to that?
No, not that particular point. But you can go. I'll go after you.
Okay, because what you're saying reminds me of something that I've told other people, is that you want people to support it out of genuine interest, not obligation. Because once my obligation is over, like you said, what's going to keep me there? Like, it's like medication. You don't take medication because you want to. You take it because you're obligated to take it. You got high blood pressure, you got a big back and you're trying to get a slim back, so you take the medication to help you lose weight, or, you got arthritis, inflammation, whatever. And then when that obligation is done, you stop. Nobody says, hey, I'm just going to keep taking it because I want to. No, I mean, unless you have an addiction, which go get help. I don't know any of the numbers, but I'm pretty sure 911 is a start. So and that is something that has come up. It is something that I have repeatedly told people, especially if you're dealing with a fan like myself, where I've been buying comics. Let's say I'm 41, so a little over half my life. I don't ever want to feel obligated to do something. And that kind of helped formulate that theory. Like, look if you're interested, buy if you like it, share if you love it. You know what I'm saying? And none of those require obligation. That's all want and desire. And I think that helps more than just saying, buy my book, and understand when you're going into this, you make a public product, people are going to pick and choose, and that, like, so this is just something that I've seen come up. And there's another question that I have that's going to kind of tie into this, and it'll probably hit a little bit closer for Adam than it will you, Alan. But, Adam, I'd love to hear what thoughts you have on what Alan said.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in regards to, well, I was just going to say getting it. No, I'll just say, yeah, I think you got to get out of the mentality of just like, I'm selling to Black people. Like, I'm looking, like, definitely we want support from the community, but it's like ultimately, like, you are, like, are we creating Black comics or are we creating comics that just have Black characters, right? So it's like,
you don't.
No, but yeah, it's like, so it's like you want to find where the fans ultimately, like, you want to find where the fans of whatever genre, like whatever kind of the closest possible, like big, like for me, right? Like fans of like Invincible, or like, fans of like Shonen. Like, I know that like people who ultimately, like, yeah, like it's going to be people who like Super Dangerous tend to be people like me, which are like basically old, like millennial, like Black millennial males who like consume a bunch of anime. Like, that's kind of the prototype, you know what I mean? So like, I know who that is, and like those, I can usually expect that person to gravitate to my book. But I think ultimately, like, yeah, it's just like finding out, like, or understanding who like your target audience is, and like just going where they are, regardless, if they are like, in the Black Comic Lords Facebook group or not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you gotta get in. We talking Black, get in where you can fit in, and that's something that I think Stranger Comics does really well. And like you said, you said something about characters that happen to be Black. I had a thought with that, but I can't think of it right now. But it's like, I kind of tend to like those types of characters too. Like, once again, you can still they can still be culturally relevant and just happen to be black. You don't have to beat me over the head with it. I had another thought with that, but anyway, to the greater point is like that is something that Stranger Comics does really well. Actually, no, that really does speak to it. Like you can make his characters white, but they happen to be black. He doesn't hide that, and they don't beat you over the head with it either. Move on to anybody have any additional thoughts? Okay. I'm gonna move on to my second question, and this is something that's been brought up to me, and I said it's going to hit a little bit closer for Adam, but not in a bad way. The way that I have it just worded is the appeal of anime to the young black consumer, and the reason why this has like been brought up to me is like there was a discussion I've had with some people about DreamCon and how it's not a black comic book convention, and you go to their website, they never claim to be, but it's like, the amount of people that, as it's been brought up to me, to show up and support a medium about basically support white, Asian or Asiatic characters, and like where is that same level of support? Where is a convention of similar size for just black comics? Forgive me, guys, if I didn't word that correct, but it's like usually when this is asked to me, I'm like, you can't blame anime for being popular. A lot of the people that go are about your age. I mean, I'm a part of that millennial generation. Anime started to rise in the 90s. So there are a lot of people, this grew with them. This appeals more to them for various reasons. I think one of the reasons is that they don't have to always deal with like some of the social justice issues that come along with some black characters. Not every black character, but some. They get to go out and go be, Goku and go save the world from enemies that are stronger than them or whatever, and it's possibly just thrown out there that it could look to be a little bit freer, like I can go, I don't know, be a pretty sailor soldier or go be Chainsaw Man or go be whatever the genre that Jujutsu Kaisen is. I think it's Jujutsu Kaisen is overrated. I couldn't get into it, or like you said, shonen and all that other stuff. Like there's just trying to figure out like the appeal of that over per se black comics or black comic book characters, I guess, is what people tend to ask me. I could be butchering that, but I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on that.
I think ultimately, yeah, like number one, if somebody's questioning like why isn't there a DreamCon for black comics, I don't know. I wouldn't know how to answer that. Maybe BlurredCon, like I don't know. Honestly, I could tell you that I know for a fact any of us indie like black comic creators who like made it into those artist alleys, it's like especially somebody who was at BlurredCon for the last 2 years, like I know they cleaned up. I know that because I know, especially because DreamCon is huge too, so I know that like that foot traffic, any like black comic creators who managed to get to DreamCon probably came away with like a lot of cash. But I think that manga ultimately is heavier with like the younger generation because of accessibility in a way. Like, yeah, you could, because like barring brick and mortars, like if we take brick and mortar out of the equation, I think it's really like, can you get on a tablet and like start reading comics? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I guess with the big two, like you got to hop on like, like Marvel Unlimited or DC, whatever. Like, and I know there are other like webcomic platforms, but I just feel like manga is just like a lot more accessible. Like, you know what I mean? You can read whatever big series, whatever.
I'll say this. I don't mean to. I apologize for cutting you
Yeah,
off.
go for it.
You talked about it because I want to get this out there. Like when you talk about accessibility. So, for instance, you're what 30, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. Okay, we'll go with that. So you're 30. One Piece, for instance, this is just an in accessibility came out in 1999, right? You can, as a 30-year-old right now, go on Amazon, go to maybe Barnes and Nobles or a bookseller and get the first volume of One Piece. Whereas you as a 30-year-old, depending on
Right.
like what your financial situation is, you can't necessarily go on those same platforms and go get Miles Morales' first appearance. And most 30-year-olds definitely can't go get Amazing Fantasy 15 because most 40 and 50 and 60 and 70-year-olds can't go get it. So ease of accessibility, manga stays in constant print. It's not printed for collectability, though there are some that are collectible, like maybe some very early prints of Dragon Ball, which that's another one. Like if you're a 30-year-old, mind you, I'm only a couple of years older than Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball was what, 85, 86, right? I'm only a couple of years older than Dragon Ball. But we all can go get the first volume of Dragon Ball because there's no delineation between print or whatever. I mean, at least I don't think there is. I mean, outside of like a copyright date. So, and I think that kind of helps with its appeal with younger generations. It's like if they want to read Astro Boy, unless Astro Boy just isn't in print. I mean, an Astro Boy is older than Alan. Alan you're what, 49? Astro Boy is older than Alan. We can go get the first volume of that,
Yeah.
In its essentially its original form, but like you can't necessarily go do that with Justice League, which is Brave and the Bold 28. The cost, I guess I'm getting to, is the cost of entry to be at the beginning is a little bit harder in comics, whether you're looking at is it Ebon or I can't think of the other one I had in my head. Hell, even like if you wanted Black Panther's first appearance, like I got mine. That's FF52, Fantastic Four 52. I got mine for $170. Now for $170, a 30-year-old like you, Adam, you can go get you can go get pretty much almost every volume of One Piece. Not saying that you read One Piece or Black Clover. Hell, you could probably get One Piece and Black Clover and get Naruto. I mean, I don't know what the cost of the volumes
I have
are
a shop
now,
down the street from me that always has sales for $170. I would clean them out.
Well, exactly, and that's what I'm getting to. Or half price books, because those things stay in constant print. Matter of fact, I have my LCS. I was just talking, and I went to high school with this dude. He's like, running a comic book shop is one of the hardest things you can do. And he says, because we are one of the only businesses that has a new product coming out every week. And you order it like it's a new product every week. When it comes to just comics, it's every week, And so I think that helps with its appeal to especially younger Black audiences. Plus, I mean, just the times that we live in. I mean, anime is a media giant, and there's really not a whole lot you can do about that. But I just wanted to speak to that real quick.
But that was the second part of what I was going to say. It's not just accessibility, but also in a way, I think it's content, because I feel like you aren't getting any consistent animated content with comic IPs like you are with like manga. Like with manga, like if a manga does well for a good amount of time, or I don't even know how they determine it, but like manga, like popular manga get picked up. And then they get turned to anime, and then like the anime, like, what I mean, that's a whole nother thing if it does well or however it does. But it's like that it's coming. Like, I don't know. I feel like, especially when it comes to the big two, like you see, I think you also really see it with Invincible, like how like the potential that some of these IPs could have if like Disney or like DC or whatever just put some money into like, you know, invested in like some good animated content around these IPs. I don't know, man.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's been a while. Go ahead, Alan.
yeah, I would say I would like to kind of add a bit. So a lot of factors, there's a lot of factors to it, which you guys kind of said, and something else too is the anime that or manga that gets popular is the one that's good. So there's a lot of stuff that we probably will never see that's garbage or on the cutting room floor. So what you're basically kind of comparing is premium content crossing over and coming into another let's say another audience. So therefore it's good. Another part of it is the entertainment value, how entertaining it is, because we watch things because we enjoy them. So you know if it's more entertaining than, let's say, trying to get into Batman or getting into old issues of stuff, or even some of the indies that we're talking about. So if you're talking, the initial question was why the young black audiences don't get into the comics or the black comics. It's a little bit because of how good and the quality of the manga. And as what you said too, you got stuff like the anime to kind of support it. Then you got the video games to kind of, so when you get it, you get that synergy. You get that synergy, you get everything. And I think that's what, and it's more of a, by the time it crosses over to our market, it means that it's gone worldwide. We're dealing with a worldwide audience. While, so you're kind of fighting the battle on your own home territory. So a little bit of it is that.
I mean, the media machine behind anime, I mean, now it's not even by the time it gets over here because they have simulcast.
I'll be honest, yeah. Even with manga too, like even like you remember Kagurabachi, like the instant like chapter 1 was released, like a chapter will come out, will drop in Japan, and then like hours later it'll be translated to English. So we've started to see like Western audiences like even having, you know what I mean, like brand new manga having like Western hype, and like people like, you know what I mean, coming. I don't know, it's crazy how, but it's like that's the internet now. You know what I mean? It's like
so when I say get over, I'm not literally meaning like time and stuff. I'm saying from the time that the audience accepts it, that means it has crossed over. So as we go forward too, as you said, you're gonna get that kind of thing, that instant thing. I remember years ago when I used to collect video games, you had games that were region locked to Japan. I would have to do imports and that kind of stuff, and it slowly kind of whittled away to now like you could play a game from any part of the world instantly. But it's still hard for American games to break into the Japanese market. That's where kind of Xbox never kind of took off, right? So it's a lot like from the time it's a hit in Japan and it's kind of tried and true and tested, bam, it's a hit in America. So that's kind of weird. And then you don't find the reverse. So there's a lot of stuff that doesn't hit outside of America. So that's, a lot of stuff that doesn't hit outside of America.
And then let's go. I want to go back to something about like entry, because you talked about like the big two adapting like their characters for like TV shows. Or go ahead.
Before you do, let me correct myself, because I feel like DC, especially like in the 2010s, DC's like those movies, that string of movies that they built out, that's what like I felt like they did that so well. Like, and
their animated films.
Yes, DC's animated.
Because I'm about to say, because their live action was terrible. It's a mess. Like
ass.
It was ass. Yeah, if you go back and this is like, I love watching honest trailers, and I never noticed this. If you go back and you watch, we're just talking about the theatrical cut. Watch the theatrical cut of Justice League, then look at the trailer. The trailer is much darker than what they got, and DC's problem is studio interference. And DC has been hitting really well with their animated films because they're adapting a certain story, like New Frontier or something like that. But DC has also meddled and destroyed.
Kind of similar to how anime adapts directly from manga, right? You know what I mean? You
Not
notice
always,
how that shit tends to work, right?
not always at a 1-for-1, because Akame got killed. It varies wildly from the manga. Like there's characters that die. There's characters that die in the anime that lived in the manga. But it is a little bit closer though. It is a little bit closer.
Yeah,
but,
I actually think that's something that I actually prefer when there's a bit of a shift between the two, because you have to kind of take into consideration, for instance, the Invincible series on Prime.
Yeah, 100%.
I've read the books, and if they didn't mix it up, change some characters, do some of the sequencing, improve it, if they had just gone, I've seen things that it will beat for beat, and then I was like, okay, I know what this is. This is great, and I don't watch it because there's nothing in it for me. I appreciate that they did it, and it's not for me because I know it. But Invincible, no, I'm watching to see either how they're going to reinterpret a scene, when they're going to get to this part, how they're going to handle this part. So, or discussing with my wife, well, this character didn't exist in the comics, and my wife would ask me a question about something, I would say, yeah, she didn't exist, or that was not a female, that was a male character, and that part of it is interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So to your point, I enjoy so much how they're adapting it. To your point, because I also read the comics.
Right. Here's the thing with Invincible. The reason why Invincible varies is because Robert Kirkman is very involved. Robert Kirkman has said, there's what I did in the series. And mind you, the book itself ended almost 5 or 6 years before the show actually came out. So he's looking at like things that he's actively looking at what he could have did better. He has said this. So that's why there's some things that changed, like what is it? Mark's first girlfriend being black. If you know what happens to her character, she's white. That's Robert Kirkman looking at it like, okay, I didn't add enough black characters. I'm going to make her black. So he said, like, I'm looking at where I could improve upon things. And so then that leads me into another thing. Like when we talk about entry, right? And this also kind of ties into like the adaptation of like the Big Two's IPs. It's like when you're dealing with manga and anime, there's usually one creator. The mangaka is the writer and creator. Oh, we think we lost Adam. And that's something that I've seen.
I'm trying to fix my camera real quick.
Oh, okay. And that's something that I've seen people say that they liked, is that, and that's some of the appeal to manga, is it has one creator, whereas with entry into comics, maybe not so much black indies, but just comics in general, it's like you see people ask all the time, like, what's a good entry point? Like, if you're going to do Spider-Man, it's like, whose run do you enter in with? And then when you look at that person's run is it's going to be very symptomatic of the time in which it was written. If you're an X-Men fan, I mean, if you're just into X-Men and time period doesn't matter, most people would probably say you're going to start with Claremont's run. You're going to start with probably Giant Size and then go from 94 to, I think Claremont wrote it Uncanny up until like 295, I think ish, but other characters, that's going to be different. Whereas manga, it's the same mangaka or comic creator. And so like One Piece, for an example, just because of how long it's been in print or how long it's been going, that's, what's his name? Eiichiro Oda. Same writer, same vision throughout every volume for 24 years now? So, you have a singular vision there, whereas the Big Two, whether it's Superman or it's Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, different writers have made different marks on various characters. And so that can be a little bit of a hurdle that I've seen people talk about why, or just come up with the thought of like, why younger Black consumers or just Black consumers gravitate towards that. It's a single person guiding the story. I mean, we know what's happened in comics where you may have a writer that does really good, then a writer can come along 7 or 8 years and then retcon what this writer did, and that happens. And that can kind of throw people off. It can kind of disparage people, So thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, that's something about comic books that when I was younger, I didn't understand it. And so back then, the runs were a lot longer. People would be on comics for years. But we never kind of, when I was growing up, we never really took notice to who kind of wrote the story. They kind of read a story and it was going on and on. Then sometimes all of a sudden, the artwork would kind of change. It looked a little different. Story went in a different direction. It kind of went to like a restart. And then you just continue as you start to like it. So it all depended on if you kind of hated the run, you were happy to kind of see the status quo change. Or if you liked to run, you were kind of sorry that it then shifted and went into a different direction. So that is the kind of curse of comics. They bring in people, one person will write it, and they have to kind of leave it at a position that everything they have done can be undone. So that the next person who comes behind it, they could kind of pick up and run with it fresh. Just insert your story and go with it. With indies, that's where we have the opportunity to do stuff a little different. So even let's say I had to say, well, hey, Adam, I want you to write a chapter of my book, or I want you to write a run of my book. I think because of the personal connections and being able to discuss stuff, you could kind of say, well, look, what do you have to do? You can do this, this, this. You can't kill this character. So that when he's done, I don't undo what he's done. I could just kind of continue. That's the beauty of being a little bit more personal, having control over the characters. Because remember, all these writers that come in, they have a vision for the character. So every person who's written Black Panther, Spider-Man, they have a vision for the character. They have their own personal politics, their own personal beliefs, stuff like that. But then the next person behind them, they take the character in a different direction because they're a different person. They don't own the character. So that's usually some of the reason why you get a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, back in the old days, and some of this, it has come up many a time, and you're right. And this is where indies could really capitalize on this. Creators aren't allowed to do what they did in the old days. Like, you're not going to find a creator now, especially within the last 10 or 15 years, that could do as many issues of a book as Chris Claremont did. I mean, he wrote Uncanny X-Men for 17 years. You're not going to have that. I mean, Peter David, who just recently passed away, he wrote Hulk for 10 years. You're not going to have that. And then you get the restarts and everything. And so creator continuity is something that I think that's what I was really trying to say, is that draws people to anime. Like I said, Eiichiro Oda has been the only writer of One Piece in its entire history. Plus, I think he's also the artist, though, So I think that's something that's a draw. It's probably something that indies could capitalize on. So we're at about the 53-minute mark. I did want to ask about the role of AI in the creative process, and then I guess the Blurred revolt, like this pushback against Blurred. I mean, honestly, I don't have any issue with Blurred.
I think you could. That could take it all of its own.
I know. That's why I'm going to avoid those.
I think
two.
Enough for next time.
Yeah, we could talk, because hopefully we'll have Troy with us again. Adam, I want you to come back, because I think the role of AI in the creative process and this kind of like Blurred revolt, or this, because honestly, Blurred to me just means black nerd. And in that's going to be anything considered nerdy: video games, anime, manga, comics, indie comics. It's all included. So we'll talk about that later. Let's go ahead and get into. There we go. Let's go ahead and get into Super Dangerous number 2, and just you want to go ahead and guide us through it as soon as I could.
Let's do it.
Hold on, I gotta go and get it again. Okay. Alrighty, I'm back. Add to the stage. Oh, sweet. Here we go. There we go. All right.
Sure. Let's cover. So even starting off with this cover, this was actually like the design, the layout was based off of Kotodwe's own submission into I forget who's, I think it was like 365 Anime. It's like a page on IG. They were having like an Invincible, like draw your own Invincible cover competition. So he drew one. I think he won actually. Like, you know what I mean? He's a GOAT. Of course he won. And I was just like, all right, this is fire. Can we, use this design for Super Dangerous number 2 cover? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And so we did it. And that's the cover, man.
All right. Yep. Just go ahead and do the promo. Go ahead.
But yeah, that is actually Resolve Comics IG page. Go ahead and follow that. You know what I mean?
All right.
Keep moving on.
I got a question.
Yeah.
When was your writing process? Did you write both issues back to back, or did you write one, produce, and then come back and write part 2?
Yeah, I wrote one, and then I came back and wrote part 2. And I think that's been like the process for each issue. I have like a master document that like lays out. I think I'm up to like issue number 15, somewhere around there. But yeah, it's
kind of like a story runner's Bible.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I can't do that. I admire you guys who can do that. Where I'm talking to a guy and he's on book 3 and he says, look, I got 24 issues in the chamber. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know how you do it.
It's just because I think about it's like I'm constantly just daydreaming about like the universe is kind of like filling out in my head constantly. So it's like I could not realistic, but like I could be spending a lot more time like filling that Bible out a lot more and like planning a lot more. But I mean, at the rate that we're producing these, there's almost no point to doing that.
Yeah, that's the part that kind of gets me. So when I sit and I say, well, why am I writing issue 10 and I'm not even sure if I'm going to get issue 4 funded, it kind of makes me say, well, let me just kind of focus on the now. So, but as you said, when you're locked into a world, you just can't stop building and daydreaming, and sometimes you're like, you don't have enough Google documents, or I tend to have a document where I just write a small paragraph of plot points for stories just so I don't forget them. So if I need a story, I just go into this folder and I look at it and like, oh, here's a plot that I haven't done yet. Let me see if I could use this one, kind of thing.
I know what you mean. I use the notes app. Like when you get an idea and you're like, oh shit, let me jot that down.
Yep.
And Alan, some of what you said about just like having a plot point, that actually used to happen with Claremont. He would come up with an idea or he would have this thread, and anytime that he would run out of ideas, his editor would be like, oh yeah, you got this over here. And it's like he had so many planned out. And then Adam, like you said, you got like what, 24? You had an outline for like 24. That reminded me of Brian Michael Bendis. Like I used to hear, Alan, you talk about, well, Bendis he was one of the people that helped get me back into comics in the early 2000s. He would be like for his books, he would be 7 to like 8 months ahead. And, he's doing multiple books. So that leads me to ask this quick question for the indie creator. What is a good point? How far out should you plan? Like, I understand Alan's point, like, why do issue 10 if you're not sure if issue 4 is going to be funded? As a fan, and I've said this probably in our admin chat, probably plan at least for a trade paperback, which traditionally is 6 issues. So that would be my thought, would be a good part to like plan, or at least have 6 issues planned and plotted, and like filled out. And then you can maybe outline for more, but maybe shoot for the 6, shoot for the trade.
My answer for that would be whatever keeps you going. If it keeps you going by living the moment within the world and building, and even though you're like 15 issues ahead, it's pulling you along, do it. If you find that it works for you just to focus on the way how I write, I only focus on the next book. So right now I'm in the process of writing the final chapter for the COTF, and I've written it like 4 times. So the way how my process works, I will write a story and I would flush it out. And if I don't like it, I'll dump it, start again. So that's my process. That way too, I know that I'm putting my all into this book. So when it's finished, it could be very well my last book, but at least I'm happy with it. Versus stretching too far out, because there's always I always tell creators, don't fall into this thing where you've put out a book and a person says, "Wow, this wasn't that good," and you then say you gotta wait for the next one. That one is gonna be great. Every book you do should be great. Versus saying, yeah, but you got to see the next one, So, but whatever keeps you going, that's a method you should do.
Go ahead, Adam.
No, I was saying that's a good one. That's damn, I had not thought about it like that. I was gonna say, for an indie guy, if your like marketing is on point and you like feel like you have a really decent following and like you feel like your shit's kind of doing numbers and like it's doing better and better each time, I would say at least, because even though like the rate that we put out books is slow, like I would say at least just like be 1 script ahead at a time. Like whatever book you're working on, like at least have that next script ready to go. Even if it's not even in that same series, like even if it's just like your next project, like another book or another series or whatever, like have your next thing like ready to go, I guess.
Kind of have it as an achievable and an achievable and an attainable goal.
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. Let's go ahead and move on. So obviously we have the credits page. My biggest thing here is switch the order. Put writer on top of your name, or capitalize your name. And this is something that I've told you in chat. Capitalize you guys' names, and you guys' names should be bold. It should be big and bold, and then underneath it you can put what you do. That's just me though. All right. Is this that whole page, or is this just where it's zoomed in?
That's zoomed in.
Okay, how do I?
This is better though. This is better because you're not going to see this stuff. But so this continues seconds after book 1.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, I'm following along on my own computer. Yeah, I mean, this is just, John, Zila, like feeling each other out, talking, shooting the shit, like him getting her up to date on what's what modern life is like. You can really scroll to the next page.
I was gonna say, this reminds me of what's her name? Mary Marvel. Is it Mary Marvel? I noticed it was like just right here. I was like, that looks very much so like Mary Marvel.
Oh, I mean, she's yeah. But question: this is a really beautiful. Like, who came up with this
100%.
kind of analogy. Who came up with? Because I like the fact that she's like almost like a ghost temporal kind of thing above him, and if you've read the other one, it kind of ties in. You kind of understand it. But the visuals here, at a glance, you can kind of see what's kind of going on. That's like a really well done. That's a really well done image there.
Oh yeah, dude. I don't know. I kind of, yeah. I guess I asked him to kind of have her like floating in the background as like an apparition, and he kind of killed it.
Yeah,
So I guess
because
I got all credit to Katodwe for real.
even the fact that she's so big, because he could have done it where she was the same size as him, which would have kind of confused the reader maybe if they weren't, like
Mm,
it would be like, okay, so she's there but because you're not seeing all of her, you kind of get that feeling of, yeah, she's not there. That's the kind of
yeah,
spirit form.
yeah,
Yeah, just as I look at it, I'm actually really enjoying the POV. Plus, I like how she's also what's the proper word, like translucent a bit,
Yeah.
or
yes,
see through. So that really
nice touch.
there's a lot of thought. I can see the color gradient. If you guys could see my cursor right under the bottom right of the panel box is where the sun would be. So
Hmm.
Mhm.
that's a pretty good attention to detail right there. So you can see where the lighting is coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
But yeah, they're just chatting a little bit. The last panel, he's like, "How much? How far away are we?" And then, next page, we kind of we lock in on Raven Rock facility. We get a shot of like some more personnel, military personnel. We get a shot of his family, and this is where we kind of start to meet. Albeit briefly, but we kind of meet his family a little bit in
Mhm.
person for the first time. His little sister Imani is kind of going off a little bit, showing a little bit of attitude, putting up a strong front. And she is, yeah, you keep going. Talking to Agent Gunn. Agent Gunn, he's the guy who called Ja in issue number 1.
Mhm.
I think page number 4, whatever. Um, but yeah, he's is kind of talking himself up a bit. He's like, look, we got you guys locked down. Like, he's not going to find you. Just hold tight. But he sees the rumbling. He feels what's going on. He's getting images from Area 51 where Jensen Strider just cleared out, and he's feeling a little nervous. He's feeling the walls cave in a little bit. He's feeling a little bit of pressure because he knows they lost Ja. Right here, yeah, he's asking for status report. He's panicking. Last panel, he's like, "We're relocating."
mm. I would have once again really wish you guys could see the cursor.
I
My
can see
only
it.
thing is, huh?
We can see it if you hover over it. I can see it.
Oh yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah, if it's pointing where I think it's pointing, I would love to have just seen the teeth filled in a little bit more. But
yeah,
that's just a personal thing. I think it would
right,
have added to the anger situation. Like here, it makes more sense, because it's a distance, so you wouldn't see that detail. But the other panel, it's so up close.
right.
But that's just a art thing. But other than that,
Yeah. But yeah. Next page, Ja's here. He's interrogating the guard. Uh, kind of he's talking to Zila. Like you kind of see her
Mhm.
responding in the caption, just letting him know like where to go. And yeah, I mean this page is like I don't know. I kind of wanted with this one at least to what is this like the third page? Um, I wanted to give no, it's like the fourth page, but I wanted to give Katodwe some room to like what I mean, do something,
Mhm.
kind of flex a little bit more. So
So do
you
you do
know,
that in the script? Do you do that in your script where you kind of leave in the script parts and then leave a note saying, well, the artist can kind of do what they want here, flex a bit,
yes,
kind of thing?
100%. That was a note that Katodwe gave to me. He's like, "Yo, if you want heavier action or like more dynamic panels, then cut down the number of panels, or sorry, more dynamic pages, and like cut down the number of panels and like give me more room to work with type shit.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure.
So you did a great balance there. Something that a lot of creators sometimes miss. So the page before this one was talking heads. So usually some people have an issue, or it's a little difficult to kind of do these kind of pages because you have to kind of keep them interesting. So you have to keep switching the angles because you just don't want a guy talking. But you've kind of 100%. Done it at different angles and different things, right? But 100%. The beauty of it too is then you give the reader a little bit of a break by then breaking them into a splash page. So so you don't want too many splash pages and too many action pages sometimes can be fatiguing because you have to keep, you gotta keep track of what's going on, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it also helps with pacing also, like you say, is just if there's just dialogue after dialogue after dialogue, it can feel really dense. It can feel really slow. But I think you guys are doing a fairly good job with the pacing and whatnot. I still like how using the thought box here, without seeing it, who is speaking to him. That is something there's a lot of really good comic book elements in this story. Just my opinion.
100%. And to pretty much to Alan's point, and thanks for bringing that up because it kind of jogged up, it's making me think a little bit more that like this is kind of, we're like picking up at least before the fight, because like you're right, the first 4 pages were a lot more like dialogue heavy. So it's like, now I am trying to introduce a little more motion as much as I can before we really pick up into the fight. So he crashes into the mountainside, he's running through the base, he's jumping downstairs, he's kind of flexing a little, just pushing through everybody, flexing a little bit. And then we're back into a more.
No. Go ahead. I'll say what I'm gonna say afterwards.
Oh yeah, and then after this page, we're kind of back into we kind of hit the brakes a little bit. And we're back into some more dialogue heavy territory.
So one thing I've noticed is that I don't, even without this, like if you just read it as a regular PDF, as a reader, you don't feel lost. You have a good sense of direction. Whatever synergy you and Katodwe have, you guys, whether it's in the script or whether it's just through his art, there's a good sense of direction. You always know where you're going. And like we brought up manga earlier, and I can tell you there have been manga pages because it's done in black and white, because a lot of them, like Shonen Jump, that's every week. And there have been plenty of pages where it's like at a glance, it's action. But to follow the direction of that, especially in black and white, I wouldn't understand what I was looking at till I either saw that particular page animated or until I saw that in color to help differentiate. And that's something that people, take into account is the direction, especially when you're doing fast-paced or very frenetic action. Understand how your reader is going to see that. They have to know which direction they're going in. Which direction your character is going in, and that's something that I think we see you doing really well.
Is your book your artist's first real project, or has he done another book before this?
He's definitely done because he has a heavy manga background, so he's published in like Saturday AM, which is like an indie black owned manga studio. So he's heavy he has a heavy manga background. And like, I don't know if I said it before, but I'm, I gotta lock in a lot more on this new project, but we have a new project coming out, like a manga that we're going to be working on. It's shonen. It's like, Sentai, like tokusatsu, I think, like, Power Ranger type of vibe.
Do me a favor real quick. Explain to people what shonen is, who may not know.
Shonen is manga like genre. It's like catered, it literally translates to like young man. It's like catered towards young men. Like it's very, power of will, like power of friendship, try really hard, train and overcome, defeat the fucking obstacle or whatever.
And don't do what Midoriya did for 20 episodes of My Hero and cry every episode.
I love I can't stand. No, you hate it?
It was annoying. I mean, it was cool, but I was like, bro,
Can't stand niggas like you. Y'all
bro,
can't.
I'm all up for the emotional stuff, but bro, you can't be crying 20 episodes. You can't be out here crying on screen like you Johnny Gill or Keith Sweat.
He shows you can be a crybaby, but as long as you put in the work, you can still be tough.
Yeah. Well, at least in that makes it
niggas up.
That makes it better. I can't stand the ones where they're crying and it's like you're completely unaware. Like, what are you crying for? Like, if you would sit back, like you're literally only this unaware because of like plot. Like, if it wasn't for that in real life, there's no way you could not notice these things.
People also don't like to give Midoriya credit because he's actually a psycho. He's unhinged. He's a crash out. Like he is a crash out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
And he's a crash out that doesn't know that this girl likes him, and all she has to do is just open her mouth and say something.
It's fine. He's still a crash. Like, you know what I mean? That's my point. But all right, here's where we're at. Like, it slows down a little bit. You know, the final, it's like a faded moment, whatever. Not really, but you know, he's here. He's walking up to his family. He reunited with his sister, and we also like, you know, since it's slowed down a little bit, we kind of throw some comedy in there. You know, well, first, you know, we see his sister reunited. You know, he daps up his brother. Like, you know, he loves his siblings, all that. Next panel into next page is like kind of where we get a little bit more comedy, but also like
real quick. I noticed her skin tone is a little bit lighter. I'm assuming that's because she almost looks like I want to say like a little bit Hispanic. Like she's really lighter compared to the other two siblings.
I don't know. Maybe she was light skin.
But I believe the mother's also drawn from what I can remember. I think mother's also drawn lighter too.
Mother, exactly. Yeah, it's genetics.
Yeah. So sometimes sometimes people who aren't, because I will get people say, why is this character not this color and all that stuff, right? But for differentiation of characters, it helps when you can give characters different hairstyles, different sizes, different skin tones. It helps with the visual where your eye can just lock in and remember what the character is. Because if everyone, I was reading a book, it's pretty good, but one issue, it's not a black comic, it's a white comic, but in the comic book I kind of bought on Kickstarter, but the issue I had with it was these characters were all on a prison colony on Mars. So they're all wearing a prison outfit. 90% of them look the same. Yeah. So it was kind of really difficult trying to figure out characters. So you kind of spent a lot of time trying to look at characters to see what was his because they're a prison colony, so everyone has the same kind of haircut. They have the same thing. All the women look kind of the same. All the men kind of the same. And then very few characters have a slightly different skin tone. So that's something that reason why you will kind of change up stuff is to kind of give, so your brain can lock in. So the father has a distinct shape, color, beard. So when I see that character again, once you don't have 90 characters in the book that look like him, okay, that's who that is at a glance. So that's where it's very important to kind of diversify for visual, quick recognition, especially when too many characters look similar.
All right, let me know.
That's an excellent way. I appreciate it. But all right, so no, that is actually a dope way to think. That's something I never even really considered. So that was cool to hear, Alan. But as far as this page goes, this isn't just like a comedy, like comedic sort of thing, but like even from the beginning all the way down, it's like you're kind of getting a snapshot into like their family dynamic, right?
Yeah.
All the way from like even down to the last panel of the previous page, right? Where you see like Ja turning around, like kind of like, oh shit, and you see both his siblings like, oh, like we're not even in it anymore. We off to the side, like we're not even locked in anymore, right? And then next panel of the first panel, next page, boom, you have like his father like kind of going in on him a little bit, but also like you also get a snapshot in this first panel of like what their family life has been like since Ja got his powers, right? Like
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
dad's talking about like, look, I've played it cool. Like when you got the powers, you were dropping out of school. Like I've been really cool about everything. But like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? And then just you have him going in, like you're done, like just being the disciplinarian. You kind of see that role coming out. You see his mother like rushing to hug him, like kind of the nurturer, like my baby, like even if he's like a walking nuke times like a billion, like
Yeah.
she's
This
still like
is
that's
I really when I read this, I really appreciated this sequence because this is something I kind of said to you as one of the things that I kind of thought was a bit lacking in, and this kind of
yeah,
makes up for it. Was where was the family? We weren't introduced to family, but this kind of you've kind of done so much with these pages to kind of show the actual. So it's not like they're just standing off. You've kind of shown the connection between the brothers, you kind of shown the connection between the father, the mother, and each of them is a different relationship. So, this kind of really kind of makes up for what was lacking in book one, where I was like, where is this family? Why
right.
not? I don't feel connected to them. But here now, I kind of get to know them, and you did a really
Right.
good job.
Yeah, they feel natural, and then
Yeah.
and like I said when we went through issue one, I said I was excited to get to this one because you're going to see how this life really does affect them and how they react to it later on. So
Mhm.
Right. And it's like
yeah,
to your point, it's like, yeah, in issue number one, it's like I said, that they were more so introduced as a chess move, but here now that like we're with them, it's like now we're really introduced to them and seeing then yeah. So yeah,
and it's
pretty
and that's
much.
and that's a good thing is learning when to move what piece and where to move it. And sometimes I think people think you got to introduce everything all at once and then move it at the same time. Um, kind of like when you're a kid and you're writing a story and you introduce a character and you describe that character in the same paragraph that they're introduced. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but you also learn that as a storytelling mechanic, you can describe that character. You don't have to take time in a paragraph to describe that character. Then you can actually describe that character a little bit in that chapter and then again in like chapter 5 or whenever. You can use the whole book to describe that character. So I
Right.
think I think you did a really good job of knowing what piece to move and when to move it.
So move actually yeah, so just these last two, you kind of, it's like we saw the nurturer, but now we're also kind of seeing the disciplinarian, also like, just being rational, like you can't be threatening world leaders. Also some more comedy because like she's kind of scolding him next panel as well, a little,
Yeah,
last bit of comedy before we transition.
I'm gonna
um
get to that because I like how you have that here because we talked about how Ja kind of just okay I'm gonna get reparations and all that, and it's like his
right,
mom's around like you that sounds good in theory, but you really just can't be doing that because there are repercussions
right,
to that, and lo and behold we here because
right,
of
like
that
what are you doing? Yeah.
you know
And
And then
it's
I
like,
like
yeah,
how, as far as powerful as Ja is, there's still that respect because this little thing up here, symbolizes, she ain't 100% pleased with him. And he
right,
understands that.
right,
For all the power he has, he understands his place in the role in the family. I'm still
right.
your mama, you
She's
know.
proud of like that would be his decision, but she's also like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, come on now, chill out. But
Yeah, you
it,
got us locked in area. You got us locked in some bunker.
right, right. You know what I mean? But then the next page, so it's like moving to the next page is like, I guess is breaking it down from a writer's or like, creator's perspective. It's like, all right, so we've pretty much solved like Ja's main issue up to this point, or one of his the main issue that he's at least aware of, which is like I need to get my family back. um and it's like, all right, so like where do we take it now? And then obviously, you kind of get the, like Ron would say, the invincible kind of influence with Gunn being kind of the Cecil character. As at this page, just throughout this page is where like he basically is approaching Ja, because he needs him to take care of, the now like demonized fucking Jensen Strider, Agent Strider. So he approaches him. He's like, "Hey man, we got a situation on our hands. You know, Ja's hot. Sorry, you want to say something about this panel?
Yeah, because I didn't want you to think that I wasn't going to go through the page.
No,
Something that I liked in this panel is,
Mhm.
you know, while we talked and we saw the different relationships that we
Facts.
see between him and his siblings, his dad and his mom. What I like is look at how they're all looking. Like we
Yeah.
just reunited. Like, yeah,
Right.
it's bad, but we are still family. And so
Ja
they're
get
all
this
looking
nigga.
like, yeah, like, hey, bro, this ain't what you want to do right now.
Right, Ja, you better get this nigga. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, he's Gunn. His agent Gunn is being audacious. He's like, look, we got a situation on our hands. Ja's, Ja's like, give me a reason not to throw you into space, right? And this is like low key, a little Easter egg, a little, you know what I mean, foreshadowing. But you know, he approaches him with the job. He shows him images of the aftermath of Jensen Strider's kind of transformation and all that. And yeah, you know, he's explaining it to him. He lets him know that he's following him, kind of up the stakes a little bit. You know what I mean? And then moving into the next page, we kind of see like, you know, parents being parents, like what's going on? Why is this person after my son? You know, we kind of get the explanation, more exposition, I guess. Like, you know, he's after the sword, and we kind of just explain it. And then the next few panels is like more explanation, with just like switching up the angles, and you know, like I wrote it like that, but Katodwe fucking like delivered 100%. You know what I mean, with these angles and this entire page. So like you know, all this dialogue, he still made it look good, made it look interesting and dynamic.
The entire page has a flow. You understand where things are going. You don't feel lost, and it leads to somewhere. You start up here, you work your way down, and here we are. So
100%.
Oh, how did that? There we go. Why is it doing this? I don't know. Where up? There we go. So what we got going on here, my man?
All right. My headphone just died, but yeah, man. Yeah, you already know what that means. Yeah, so he's you know, setting the like clearly stating the stakes. You know, clearly stating the what's at stake right now. He's like, look, this dude ripped through our best weapons tech just like you did. You like nobody's a match for him. We need you to take care of him. Like he's gonna. What if he touches down in like a populated, you know, area, and like imagine the damage he could do. The next page or next panel, you got.
Hold on before you go there.
I let you touch with the family in the glasses.
I wanted to point that because that's not something you see that often. Plus, there's also the slight variation from the let's see, this would be the left eye and then the right eye. And he even accounted a little bit for the angle of Ja because it would look a little bit different. So that's a little minute detail that we don't often see. And so we go. You want me to go to this next panel?
That's the first time I've ever noticed it, but once again, I'm not surprised because Lord Katodwe is the fucking GOAT. You know what I mean? So
that's a sign. That's a sign of a good artist, man. You didn't put something in the script, and he did it, or he came up with it.
Even like I said, if you look at what would be his right eye, look at the angle of his dad, look at Joss, and it's still the exact same visual, but it's taking into account POV, the point of view, like based on you can almost imagine what's this dude's name again? I forgot it.
Agent Gunn.
Yeah, Agent Gunn. You can almost imagine if you were in his position, like how he would actually be physically positioned.
Yeah. That's look, man. Let's tell you, man. Old way, man. Like respect. But yeah.
All right, so now this is something interesting. Like I like how you know, the dad is basically like, you want him to go out here and fight this thing, and you expect him to do that for free, you know. Yeah. Did we lose? We can't hear you, Adam. We can't hear you, brother.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you. We lost your sound. Adam, we lost you, bro. We don't have your audio.
We can't hear you.
Can't. Yeah. Hold on, everybody. We seem to have lost Adam's audio.
Yeah, but that little touch is amazing. Sometimes when you write a script and you have a really good artist who is really in tune with the book, he will add details that you yourself didn't put in. And sometimes you go back in the script to see where you did it and it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of really good synergy. They understand each other. They're allowing for each person's creativity and experience to show. Let's see. Adam, say something, man, because let's see if we got you back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
All right. Good. So I don't know if you were able to hear me, but
continue what you were saying. Yeah. What you were saying.
Actually start from the beginning of what you were saying, because we didn't get any of that.
Yeah, I just went off. I can't even remember. So with this panel that you're on right now, it's just you have his dad being more of a, being a parent, kind of going off on Agent Gunn, and also like a little bit of comedy at the end with him being like, "Hey, I'm starting to agree with Ja about chucking you into space." And then in the next panel through this page, you kind of we kind of get some development in the relationship between Ja and Agent Gunn, but also just some more comedy. Like he offers him the job in this. He offers him a blank check in this panel. In the next panel, he basically lowballs himself, and then the next two panels, you kind of just see Agent Gunn just stunned, and also his parents like kind of just like slapping their foreheads, like
Once again, in this panel, look at the glasses. People look at that. A lot of times, like you could have an artist and they would do like the death stare glasses, but that's still attention to detail right there. I like how Kotodwe has paid attention to some small things that most people probably won't even really notice. You could have did that whole panel and it could have just been the death stare glasses and you could have still got the point across, but he wants you to see the look of shock and awe in Gunn's face.
That's why I feel like, I don't want to say like arrogant sometimes, but I do feel like I have very high esteem in like these books, at least in terms of art quality, even if just me that feels this way. But like, I really would put my books up there with any of the top like indie or like not books. I really would put Kotodwe's art up there, and that's really just how I feel about Kotodwe's art, to be honest. But you got.
And where did you say Kotodwe is based in?
Ghana.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've never actually held like an audio conversation with him. It's all, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's like email or whatever.
Yeah, we have only ever DM'd each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But last panel, comedy is just they're highest paid athletes make north of $50 million a year, and you just saved 3 countries last week. Like, what are you doing? And then the next, straight here's where we start to pick up again, right? Very important, and Kotodwe killed this. Obviously, you really feel it, like.
Probably disclaimer, extreme violence or something like that. Did we lose him again?
Yeah.
Adams, could you say something? Oh yeah, we lost him. Yeah. I still like how now this is what distressed dialogue is supposed to do. This is it's supposed to show this type of like energy. Like it should match the energy of it shouldn't just be distressed dialogue and whatever is saying it is just sitting there. Like it should be it should be tied to some like distressed action, or I say distressed dialogue, but like distressed or erratic or psychotic, whatever word you want to put there. It should symbolize. It should be there should be a visual representation of that. You can't just can't just have like, I forgot to say Nigel in British. Oh, I missed my call. Whatever. Can't just have you sitting there in a chair like that, and then you're saying, yeah, like you gotta look the part, and that's something that's some of that could be creators with experience, just you don't know what you don't know. And then some of that could be creators like, oh my God, we have all these tools in the toolbox. Let's just use them. But you don't understand why they're there, All right, say something first. Okay, there we go. Hey man, it's a real show. We go. Hey man, we're gonna make it work. We're gonna make it work.
My phone was gonna fucking explode, dude. It was making some crazy noises.
Oh man, this man is still running. Oh my God, he got a Galaxy 7. He got a Note 7. He about to blow up in his room.
Cheap iPhone. I mean, this
even cheap iPhone. Yeah, I expect that from iPhones. They pieces of shit. Just a little bit of bias, folks. I can't stand iPhone. But no, I was just saying, once again, good use of having, as what I like to call, distressed or maybe just excited dialogue, and having the visual to match that. We've seen it sometimes where, you have a character speaking like this, and it's like, why? It's unnecessary. It looks like, once again, you saw a tool in the toolbox and you decided to use it, not realizing that usually distressed dialogue like this matches the scene. And so, once again, these are just some things that we see that you're doing really well. Like, yeah, Sanders, and then he's slicing half, and I mean it's blood and guts. And I already did like a disclaimer, visual gore, whatever. If you offended, I can't help you at this point.
Yeah. He's unhinged. He has too much power. He's out of control. He's tweaking. He doesn't know where he's going. But even that, I don't know if y'all covered that first panel, but that, gorgeous, like, boom, like we're straight into it, like, catching everybody by surprise, whatever. And then into that second panel, like you just pointed out, this dude's tweaking. You kind of get a sense of it in the lettering, and like, he slashes through somebody, and that blood ends up on Imani, Ja's little sister, and it's like, he starts charging up for like a Sero type attack, gathering energy. He's about, whatever. You can go to the next panel. And Ja's still kind of fucking around, honestly. Like, Ja's still stuck. He's like being slow. He's like not taking it seriously, because he feels, for whatever reason, maybe he's desensitized to like all of the fucking like, natural disasters he's done rescue in, or like, maybe he just feels, he's just being arrogant because he still feels in control of the situation. But,
sorry about that.
He's like fucking around. He's like, I want $1 billion. Gunn is like, yes, you got it, whatever. But like, get rid of him now. And then we go,
Hold on, before we move on. Now, this is where I say he varies from Cecil, because Cecil still would have been very cool in this situation. Like,
true.
Just from what I can remember, like, true. Cecil, even when facing imminent death, wasn't really rattled. Cecil still would have been trying to be the master manipulator, same kind of like other government agents of his type, like Henry Peter Gyrick, X-Men, like, would still have been trying to manipulate and run this situation. And so that is a little bit of difference there between a little bit of delineation between the two characters.
100%. But yeah, you get this super dynamic like toss. I did write it like this actually, but obviously Gatoadway fucking delivered like a mother. He delivered over delivered. And we have Ja just tossing the sword really fast at Strider.
Yeah, I mean, and you can actually lay this panel flat, and it would still come across. So he did a really good job. Like, if you actually just laid it flat, it would still really work. That's just something for me.
Gorgeous. Zila's like, no. I wonder why she is saying that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Strider's grabbing at the sword, and Ja rushes, like he pretty much circles around in that instant, and is just like, made you look, got you overextended in a really good position for me to deliver this fucking uppercut from hell, and he cracks him in the chin. Gatoadway. Huh?
I like how you said overextended and then gave the reason why that's important. Because I have a friend who's in the fight community. He does Muay Thai and kickboxing, and sometimes he'll see things and he'd be like, especially when we go to fights, he'd be like, he needs to do this or this person needs to do that. So I like how you were able to explain to the people watching, like he overextended, which leaves him open for the uppercut for anybody who has never trained in fighting or doesn't really know why that's important.
Sure, yeah. I think I got my first Muay Thai class tomorrow, by the way. But yeah, he knocks him
you're gonna be
the ceiling. You know what I mean? And tells Gunn like, "Yo, get my family somewhere safe for real." And he, rushes off to go deal with that. Gunn, after hearing that request, looks at Ja's family, and we kind of get, a glimpse. You know what I mean? We start to see these consequences creeping in a little bit.
Yeah, so. This is what I was excited to get to.
It's a powerful thing.
Yeah, because it's and this is where, like, when you first introduced this to me, with like November of last year, because I was in Houston, I'm like, these are those notes for people watching the video that strike invincible. Think about what Mark's mother looked like when she finds out Mark's father is a Viltrumite, and that effect that it has on her. Even in the comic, like, if you guys have never read it, Rob from Comics Explained has a really good series on it where he goes through each volume and explains it, and you see the effect that this life had on his mother, eventually what it has on his father. And so I really like what you did here, because if you look at the sister's eyes, I don't know if I can zoom in and I don't want to mess nothing up, but you see the mom, like, the shit's hitting home, but look at the sister. She's dead in the eyes. Yeah. She's completely dead in the eyes, and like,
she just saw three grown ass like soldiers, like big fucking commando niggas, get like snuffed out in an
and then to show the motion, just to show just how out of it she is. Look at the position of her arms. That means her dad is slightly shaking her. Yeah, that would be from my angle. It would be to the right. He's moved, and you see her arms. She's dead on the inside right now. That's a therapy moment. Like she's
scarred for life. Yeah.
She's gonna need. And this is where it would vary with Cecil. Like, this is even bothering Agent Gunn. Cecil would have kind of tried to show emotion, like like a true psychopath would try to show emotion, but they really can't. It's hard for them to form those type of emotional bonds. It looks like Gunn here actually does feel something for this, for this family, I should say.
Right. He feels bad. It's crazy. But we're back into it. The Strider, he got the sword. He's like gathering chaos energy. And he's he's tweaking, man. He's fucking tweaking, dog.
So me and Alan are of a certain age, and this is not a knock against you. I don't know, you may have seen it. This would have been a great time to say that I have the power of, and then just cut to something else.
He-Man?
Yeah, Masters of the Universe. That would have been
right.
Yeah, that would have been, and you could, and then I use that as a joke, but you could have used that to kind of show that there's still a little bit of humanity left in Strider, that whatever demon has possessed him has probably taken his memories and used that, or whatever. Just one of those things. But, still, once again, love the proper use of this erratic, crazy, frenetic dialogue, or whatever we want to call it, whatever it's actually called.
And then somebody kind of appears like out of a little temporal rift or whatever, and they're just encouraging him to gather more chaos for himself, as much as he can handle, because they want him to do that for some reason. Wink, wink, nod, nod. You know what I mean?
Yeah, kind of obvious.
Right.
Kinda. And then one of the things to denote that, like, whatever that is what's causing this to happen. And it makes you wonder why that type of thing doesn't happen to Ja. And maybe that's in direct correlation to him having these abilities that allows him to resist the pull of the sword or whatever.
No, he's 100% insulated by his powers. His power is so he. I'm not even gonna get into his powers.
No, go ahead. You can open up. Never mind. We'll have
As
to bring you
strong as
back.
he is, I'll put it like this: as strong as he is, he's only really putting out like 10% right now. Even he's probably like maybe a little bit lower, but like he's really like max. He's really only putting out like 10%. Like he. There's so much fucking power. That shit is so dense. Is whatever.
I imagine that's going to get explained in a future issue.
Yeah. Yes. But sorry, we just skipped. I mean, sorry, can we go back a little bit?
Yeah, man. Just let me know where you want me to go.
How far back? So yeah, right here. I mean, he's he knocks, he punches Strider really hard, knocks the sword out of his hand. He catches it in the next panel. You can go. Yeah, there you go. He is has the sword again. Zilla's talking to him. She's explaining to him why he shouldn't be doing that. She lets him know that he saw, Strider is siphoning chaos for himself from the blade. So like, keep that shit away from him. Like, if he gets too much, too fast, like right now, he could be a problem for you. Especially like, I didn't say it, but it's like I was saying, like how he's only at like 10% or like a little bit lower. It's like as he is right now, if Strider like kind of siphons enough chaos magic, he could potentially hurt Ja.
Okay.
And yeah, stakes that we kind of illustrate that with, showing his hand is a little fucked up from that punch.
Okay.
And yeah,
that actually does look like dried blood, but it also looks like I'm wondering, did he draw that on there like that, or is that an effect that he put in later through like Photoshop or something of that nature, like a layer put on top of that? But that would be a question for Kotodo to answer.
Yeah. Okay, so it would be a Kotodo question, but
you should get him to come on the show. Both of y'all could be on.
Yo, that would be tough. I'll ask him. That might be tough with the time zones.
Yeah, because even if you look right here, it looks like it was applied after he drew. It looks like it's sitting on top of it, but that's.
I'm sure it's like.
By the way, it's still. Yeah. Either way, it's still a good blend. Like, it still illustrates that it's blood, and it looks like that it's dried too. So.
Right.
Just one of those nuanced details.
But yeah, you have Strider charging at Ja, tackling him basically through a mountainside, like tackling him through a fucking mountain. You know what I mean?
Good job at showing the scale of the mountain.
Yeah, man. Seemed like tackling him through the mountain, and then this next panel is Ja like basically spinning and like throwing him off. And then Zilla continues to explain the stakes to Ja, like, hey, don't let him touch the sword again. Sheath it to your back, like, get ready, like you're gonna have to fight him off, basically.
Okay. Just let me know when to stop.
Get ready. All right. So I mean, right here, I don't know. It's just just something nice to look at. They're going at each other. It's, we're into it. Heavy action. It's really about to kick off.
Did you script this way, or did you just
say what?
Did you script it this way, or are you just trusting Kotodo to, basically exhibit the vision or show the vision? Or
yeah, no, I scripted it that way. Just have them charging at each other. Killed it, and then yeah, they do the thing. Their fists meet. Ja feels that. In the next panel, you see him kind of drawing his hand back out of pain.
Yeah, look, you see, he chipped his tooth too. Looks like it. Looks like it. I could be a bit wrong.
Yeah, that was just the art thing. It was drawn, but as he's drawing his hand back, Strider grabs the other one, pulls him into a fucking punch. Like, it's kind of taunting him a little bit. You know what I mean? We're exchanging blows. Yeah, you can keep going. knees him in the gut. Yeah, you keep going. And yeah, he throws him hard this time, so hard that he can't stop. And then the next panel, we kind of he crashes
That's
into a
just
building. He throws him into a city, like into a building.
yeah. I see the detail in the teeth. Like if you ever see your own teeth in sunlight, you'll see the same effect. You'll see a little bit of the inside in there. Interesting. I didn't
Okay.
notice that. I didn't notice that when I first read it, but seeing it on my monitor, I can see that little minute detail. That's just me.
But yeah, this is kind of where I started having a little more fun with the fight scene. Kind of like definitely drew off that invincible sort of vibe, like drawing the public into it, kind of getting into that like realism, that superhero realism aspect that like Invincible does well. Like, if these superhero fights are on like such a big scale, like people would get fucked up and drawn into it, right? You kind of see that here. So and Kotodwe kills it, obviously, like with the angles. You see everybody flying around Ja, who just flew into this building, and yeah.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for including the collateral damage. I mean, like you said, that just makes sense. And that's why last episode I brought up like they're fighting in a metropolis. Like you don't think that other people are gonna be uh brought in, or if I'm Superman and I'm fighting Zod, like I don't have time to move the people. Zod's not gonna stay still. There's going to be collateral damage. And this was an actual like argument or debate or whatever when what was it? Winter Soldier and Superman and them came out. People were actually upset about the collateral damage, and it's just like, what the hell did y'all think was going to happen? If you and Alan are fighting in the middle of New York City, you don't think there's going to be like casualties or whatever? There's not going to be people drawn in. It's a heavily populated area. Like common sense.
And then just from like a creator writer perspective, we've been trading blows for a little bit, so it's like kind of with this upcoming scene, with this scene that just started, we kind of want to I don't know, keep it fresh, like up stakes, kind of like switch the perspective, like I don't know, make it cool, right? In my head. So he stops himself before he hits this lady. He's trying to do, he's still a superhero. He's still trying to do a superhero thing. I'm sorry, ma'am. Are you okay? But in the middle of his question, he realizes like Strider is still hurtling at him. So he turns around, panicked. Then we can go into the next page even, and he has to meet him like outside of this building before he brings the fucking building down, basically. So he's struggling, trying to hold Strider back. Strider is just fucking tweaking. He's out of his mind. He doesn't even care right now. He just wants that sword. These people are terrified, and you have this lady who we just introduced in the last page calling her significant other because she feels like they're about to die, and like she feels like this building's about to come down, and this is like these are her last moments. She's terrified, and we kind of see that. Ja hears that, and he is like, that can't happen, because he still understands like, he's responsible for these people's lives, right? So he kind of rallies himself, you know, and this is where we take it up a notch, basically, with
This
Ja.
is that psycho, I don't want to say fugue state, but like this
Is
is
that
that
Crash Out Deku sort of inspiration,
mhm. Yeah. The death stare in the eyes.
Yeah, yeah. It's like we're not. Yeah, this is like I'm pulling all the power that I actually have. I'm not holding back anymore. And he cracks Strider in the side of his face and like he's like, get away from this building type shit. Sends him flying. Strider now can't stop himself, but Ja comes in behind him, stops him with an elbow, uh, and grabs his arm now, and kind of spins him around with all the force he can muster, and tosses him up basically as far as he can into space. And this is kind of like a callback to earlier where he was threatening to toss Agent Gunn into space, and his father was like, I'm starting to agree with you about tossing this guy into space. And here's where it's like when the stakes are like really high, he's like, okay, I'm actually going to toss this nigga into space. Like he's actually alive right now. And yeah, beautifully illustrated by Kotodwe. Ja, he's like, oh shit, I actually did it. He's considering like, should I leave him in there? Like, he's tweaking. Like, should I just leave him up there? Type shit. Like, I could just leave him up there. Um, but he decides against it. That's not what he does. It's not who he is. And he goes up to retrieve Strider. Strider is not Ja. Strider can't survive in the vacuum of space. Um, so here's one clear like limitation that we're seeing with Strider, at least. Besides like kind of the strength differential that like when Ja actually is going seriously, when Ja's going 100%. But here's another strength differential. He goes up, he sees Strider, he grabs him. He's about to, bring him back down, right? He's struggling. But Strider's still fucking tweaking, and he's still like grabbing at Ja, and it's like, okay, so you're still. Here's where Ja's like, oh wow, okay, you're still going. All right, I got you. And we can, next one. And so he's like, all right, I'm gonna hit you one more time, right? He spins him back around, right? Because he's not gonna like throw him out into space, but he's like, all right, I'm gonna send you back down. So he spins him around, we can go to the next one, tosses him back down towards Earth. And
that's a Superman pose. That's I'm pretty sure this is from a Superman cover.
I mean, you know what I mean? He's kind of.
I mean, I'm not saying anything wrong. I'm just saying that's like an inspiration for that.
100%. And we're kind of seeing like, I don't know, this is a lot. So Strider's falling towards Earth, hurtling. He's out of control. He can't do anything. Ja's flying down. He's like checking him out. He's looking at him. Ja's like, are you serious? Like, this next one, he's like, are you seriously like, you're still trying to go, huh? And Strider's like kind of reaching towards him. He's like still tweaking out. And Ja's like, all right, bet, I got you. Like, all right, you still trying to go. I got something for you. Next one, right with like he's flying down, like, you know what I mean? Like an orbital fucking punch.
Yeah.
And just wallops him for, boom, like into the ground. Giant crater, giant cloud, like, yeah, crazy spread. And yeah, I mean, I wanted to give Kotodwe room to really make this what it was, and he did. He did his thing, and yeah,
what country did it? What country was it? Where did they land?
Where did they land? They landed in the U.S.
Okay, cool.
They landed in the U.S. Probably like, if I had to give it, I'd probably say they landed like 50, somewhere between 50 to 100 miles away from the facility. So we're in the crater.
Oh, so they did light up.
No, yeah, we're in the crater. We see what that, that last punch, that last attack sequence, whatever, did the Ja's outfit, it formed this giant crater. Strider is transformed back. It took all of his power, dealing with that blow, receiving that blow. It took all of everything he had away. He's back, passed out. Ja's just like, hey man, stay put. I'm over this. And he kind of blasts off. He's like, I gotta go check in with my family, And yeah, he gets back to an empty facility. You still see some blood stains from where Strider crashed out and splattered people. Ja's kind of being a little cocky right now. He's being a little. I guess the way he came back is still like arrogant. He's not like even concerned about what happened with his family or whatever. His first thing is like talking about the cash. Agent Gunn's like nervous, having the anticipating this conversation he's about to have with Ja, or this conversation that Ja's parents are about to have with him. Really, spoiler alert. You keep going. He's looking for his family. He needed to check in with them. It's like, where they at? Keep going. And Gunn tells him that they're gone. You kind of see the surprise here. He's letting him know, it's like they've gone. They're away from you, basically. And we keep going. Ja's like, what the, immediate like suspicion. Gunn's like, wait, hands him a phone in the next panel. You're gonna want to see this, right? Build a little suspense. And we see Ja's mom on like a video call, and she's crying and she's distraught and she's trying to speak, and she kind of breaks down in the next panel, right? She can't even get it out. Um, Next panel. Uh, Ja's obviously confused, alarmed. Keep going. And then this panel, this is like, I guess the bulk of when you think about it, like, this is kind of where we deliver the blow, right? He's like, what's going on? Is she okay? He's like, she's fine. No, she isn't actually fine. None of us are. Like, Chase can't stop shaking. Imani's going to need years of therapy to get past what she saw today. We kind of finish up. That was the one. We kind of bring in the two with the next panel. 1, 2, like, my point is, Ja, that we've decided to take some time as a family to step away from you, your mother, and I've asked Agent Gunn to relocate us in secret. Please don't try to find us again. I'm sorry. We do love you, but you're too dangerous to be around. Right?
Yeah, when I read that, that was really well done. I like the fact that you had the almost like the balls to kind of do it. Some people write stuff, but they can't. They have to kind of have it always coming up roses. And even with when I saw the little girl going to the catatonic state, it made me actually go back and I read that page and the one before it. And you did something where you set up something, but you also did pay off. So setting up something that tragic and that serious and not paying it off, where he had to come back and his family would have been okay, would have kind of been a letdown. So this kind of opens up a lot for his future, and it gives now more layers to the character.
Yes,
it also allows for more storytelling avenues to deal with the family. So, for instance, if any of the siblings like turned evil, there's a point of origin for that. Like the younger sister, like even when she comes back, she just was never the same, or because she's in that probably still catatonic state, her body can be inhabited, because she's psychically defenseless, like, or whatever, or she wouldn't be able to be in control because her inner self has retreated deep within herself. So there's a lot of avenues you could do for that. I mean, and honestly, we don't see something similar to that, but having read this a while ago, like mood shift, you'll see that with John in a couple of panels. But I agree with Alan. A lot of people want that like Spielbergian type of ending, and it's like, nah, like his family's messed up. Like, this is realistically what would happen to a degree. Some people could take it. Like, you see the look on the father's face, and he's being a father, not just a black father. He's being a father. Like, it's the mom can't do. She can't tell him, because that's probably what's parlaying into her emotional distress. Is how do you tell your son who got powers that he didn't ask for, who's doing the right thing, like, baby, I love you, but I gotta leave you. I mean, we get it, but that's hard for a mother to do. And the father, it's not easy for him, but he's like, look, son, logically, that's men are typically considered logical. Your brother can't stop shaking, your mom can barely speak, and your sister's gonna need, tons of therapy.
Whole family is,
whole family is, and it's like we've got to step away from you, and essentially like one of the sub things that is like, if you're gonna be mad, come at me. That's the father taking the bullets for the family, which is what we expect. So that was really well done. And go ahead.
But it's also just like kid, like, I've been rolling with this whole thing. You got the powers, you want to do this superhero thing, and then you wanted to drop out of school to do this. And it's like, I've been cool. We've been like holding it down. Like, we've been staying in like whatever normal we could up to this point. But like, if this is just gonna be a Tuesday, like if this is our new like Tuesday, Like, nah, man, we can't do that. Like, you're
Right now, we can't handle this as the new normal. This
yeah,
can't. We're not.
you're gonna get us killed. That's like,
And
nah, man, we gotta get away.
And then in some creators, like to Alan's point, would write it toward the family's like, okay, this is the new norm, and there's no lasting consequences for that, and it's like that's not.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem real. Like what you
Adds
do
layers.
affects us.
Yeah, adds layers to the story, and also it gives you a little bit of freedom too. So by having them to be written off for a little bit can let you kind of explore different avenues without the audience having to say what became of the family. The family went into hiding, so we can do a couple of issues without them, and then when we come back, we can show where they are now, and so it gives you freedom. That's a smart move to do. Kind of write them out for a little bit and maybe bring them back. They're not off the table, but their explanation, they have an explanation for why they may be missing.
Yeah, I mean that's very.
I was saying,
that's invincible.
We have like a good justification for this like invincible Cecil relationship that Ja has with Agent Gunn, and it's not just the money.
Yeah, but I mean that's also very much invincible. I mean, Mark had to go off and go do his thing, and in that process, you start to see his mother heal. Like I forget, what is it, like the 5 stages of grief? Like she goes through that, and then she turns to alcoholism, and then she has to get over that, and she gets over that when Mark brings his little brother, because now she has something to occupy that time, and so there's a story you could set up down the road of like Mark could actually, not Mark, but Ja could accidentally run into his friend, because remember, he doesn't know where they are, and he could come up with the decision. Does he reintroduce himself into their life, seeing that they're finally over it, or wherever, like Alan said, wherever they are, or does he go on knowing that like the best way that I can love them and protect them is to be away from them? So it allows for some emotional depth to happen too.
Yeah.
So good job of planting some seeds you can work with in the future.
100%, dude. 100%. But yeah, here's, like I said, there's the 2-punch or the 1-2 punch combo. And then we kind of, he's knocked out here. Like, yeah, I get it. He's devastated. His face is shaded over. Gunn is just like, hey man, I'm sorry they asked me to. And then Ja's completely avoidant of the topic. He's just like, hey man, I'm good for that 1 billion, right? And Gunn's like, yeah, I mean, you are better than any weapon system we can actually come up with. So yes, you'll get it in monthly installments, but we will absolutely get a line drawn up in the defense budget for fucking Josh Sanders. Yeah, we will. And
I liked how.
Huh?
No, I just said I liked how it's the money is the comfort. That's how Ja did. That's his comfort right now is the money, because that's all he's got is the money. Yeah. There's nobody else, and that's when I initially read this. That is what I took from that. He's like, it's not that it doesn't bother him, but the only consolation I got is you got that bread. That's just like
I kind of read it. I kind of read it as a front so that he doesn't show weakness.
Yeah, there's that too.
So I saw it as a front to kind of just try to keep in control of the situation, because this whole thing has kind of taken a lot of control out of his hands, and he needs to try to, because remember the character is set up with a lot of bravado, a lot of pride, and this is kind of shaking him to his core. So when I read it, it was like, yeah, he's hurting inside bad, but he has to be as callous as possible to keep.
Yeah, he's trying to. I agree. He's trying to maintain face. That's why I said the money is the consolation prize. Like it's a temporary. It's like smoking a blunt. Like I need this temporary high to feel better for whatever it is I'm going through on the inside. So you got that money, and like you said, he's been doing it to mask his pride. He's clearly looking away from Gunn because no one can see your tears when you cry in the rain. So
you're right. It's raining.
There's a song about that. I can't. Oh my god, I can't. It's an Isaac Hayes song too.
It's also just a trope in anime, right? Like You know,
Walk On By. That's the name of the song. It's by Isaac Hayes. Walk On By. He's like, there's no dust in my eye. There's just smoke. Yeah, that's what he's talking about. So,
but yeah, man. He, like you said, he's put up the front. He blasts off. We're good. Whatever. One of Gunn's subordinates is just like, yo, like we should have him bring in Strider. Like, is it cool? Like, look, Strider, what I mean? And Gunn is just like, look, man, like how far out are the containment teams? Like, let them handle this one. And then the next page is a complete 180 from the first page of issue number 1, where we kind of are introduced to him. Where it's like it's the same, and that's basically what I wrote. For Stowaway, I was like, we're flipping that first page. Instead of him kind of like flying confidently, he's like hugging himself, like crying because he just lost his family today.
Yeah. And then you look at the dialogue, that is Agent Gunn talking. That's another instance where Gunn and Cecil differentiate. Cecil would have probably delivered that, and it would have still felt very cold. Like, the kid just lost his family, but the fuck well, you know what I mean? Whereas this guy, I don't know, the way I read it, Alan, let me know what you think. It feels like Gunn has a little bit of empathy for him. And Adam, depending on how you do it, you could go the complete Cecil route, or you can make Gunn, and like I said, I don't know how you have it planned. You can make Gunn kind of like a surrogate father, or something to flip it, where Gunn and Ja do get a tight bond, and Gunn could be something that, because like you said, Ja is filled with pride. He's 17 or whatever. He's got Superman powers. Yeah.
He's 19.
And so 19. So he's still young. I mean, he's in that YN age. Yeah, you know what I mean? And so Gunn could be that like new emotional anchor, that mentor. Like they could soften each other up, not weaken, but soften, or
So I will spoil it a little bit. Gunn's not gonna no, he's not gonna be like that. Gunn's position is and it will always be like, the security of the country above all, and like his duty will be to his job above all, and the people of all. But I will say, like, Gunn is not the worst one. Like, there is somebody way worse. Like, there's somebody a lot darker than Gunn, who is a lot more, like, I guess, Machiavellian in his ways, and like, you know what I mean? That will kind of make Gunn, in contrast to him, look a little more like that,
or make Gunn look like a saint.
What's up?
Yeah, but one question. So going forward, does the sword become invisible? Does he have it in a portal? How do you handle him not having his sword, like because all the time on screen? Because even
I would say,
even even from an artistic standpoint, when I do my books, keeping track of character props is a pain in the ass. If character has a certain prop. And then on the same time too, I'm thinking like if he then turns around, he has like a personal life and he has a girlfriend or he is does he always, because he can't be without the sword. So do you always see it, or because you don't want people touching it or taking it. So I just want to know how you're handling this sword. I don't want to get too much of a spoiler, but that's like the creative side of me thinking, how are you going to handle that?
I'd say in the first 2 issues, it's more of like you gotta just suspend your disbelief and like understand that he's kind of like carrying it with him at all times. Or even in the second issue, it's like right here we gotta just suspend our disbelief and say it's strapped to his back, and it's just like by the angle of this shot, we just can't see it, right? In issue number 3, it's interesting you mentioned like a spoiler and shit. That a big part of that is actually answered or like dealt with. So like yeah, I'll say in the subsequent, like in the issue subsequent to this one that we're working on right now, Kotodwe actually just uploaded like lines for page 21, I think, earlier today. Um, but a big part of that issue deals with Ja like having the sword and like carrying the sword all
Yeah,
the time.
because I think Ronald, you could kind of correct me if I'm misremembering, because I think Adam in Masters of the Universe in the original series, he used to pull the sword out in thin air.
Hmm.
He didn't carry the sword. He might carry the sword, but Adam didn't have a sword.
Yeah, I don't unless man, it's been many years since I've actually seen. I want
I
to say,
cannot. I think he used. I know it's a toy. He has it, but I think in the cartoon he kind of it just used to materialize out of thin. I could be wrong.
the
I
original
know.
Masters of the Universe, it probably did. Man, people in the chat or whoever watches this is going to correct us. I
Yeah.
want to say he almost did pull it out of nowhere, and you just had to assume it was back there, or it kind of showed up like Optimus Prime's trailer.
Yeah, that shit
Optimus
you
Prime,
saw, bitch.
Optimus Prime's trailer ain't been present, but as soon as he transforms, this motherfucker shows up
Right.
just out of nowhere. And
Yeah.
Right.
I work. It's a 53-foot trailer. That's the
Yeah.
biggest we make them in this country. Like shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and it
Yeah.
just popped up.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, there's mechanics, and see, part of what I like what we're doing with this is people say, oh well, you know, people judge, you don't come up with solutions. Well, if you listen to this conversation, Adam, Alan, correct me if I'm wrong, we've come up with potential ideas that you can use later on. And that's a mechanic you can work out. Like you can make it so that maybe because of the sword encountering Jaws powers, that it's learning to do some new things that it traditionally did not know to do or didn't know how to do. So it can alter its shape. Kind of like the is it Cephas, the staff of Cephas or whatever? I can't. No, my God, I can't remember the staff in Assassin's Creed. When you play Odyssey, that staff is like 6 feet tall, but it shrinks down, kind of like the extendo pole in Dragon Ball. It does that so that it can be easily concealed. That's how Cassandra is able to have it and live for 2,000 years. Because Assassin's Creed Odyssey takes place 400 years before Assassin's Creed Origin. Origin takes place around the time of Julius Caesar, which would have been like
2000
zero. Yeah, literally 2,000 years, like beginning when we moved from BCE to BC. And so Odyssey is 400 years before that. And she lives from that point till you get to the end of not Valhalla, but the one before that. No, the end of Odyssey, because she runs into Layla. And at that point, Cassandra's like 2,000 years old.
Yeah, that's something as a creative part of me kind of think that's. But I know that
I didn't even notice that that he didn't have the story.
Yeah, that's a pet peeve of mine because one of the things I kind of watch for and I look at is weapons changing hands from panel to panel, because it's a kind of a pet peeve. Nothing pisses me off in a movie when characters are in a shootout and then because they're moving to the next scene, all of a sudden this gun is no longer useful. You're going to throw it in the trash, or you're going to leave it. Or the other one, which is another trope to kind of do is and this has been done from the beginning, where you have a special ops agent and he's like he has every weapon in the book, but just when he's parachuting in, that gets blown down river or some shit. He don't have it. He has to be, But so I'm very conscious of like weapons and that kind of stuff. I don't mind the idea of. I get what you're saying with I know it's on his back, but I was just saying like the logistics of him having it all the time. I was wondering. So back in the day, like Lionel from Thundercats, his sword used to shrink.
And it fit in the glove, so he could always carry it.
Correct, and he never had an issue with it. Lightsabers are the same thing. Lightsabers are small, and it's because I'm usually like aware of weapons all the time. Weapons, characters, weapons all the time. Even like down to like Hawkeye has a retractable bow in some books or in some series and stuff like that. So because even the logistics of drawing something constantly and remembering which side it's on. I had a book where I had a character and had a gun holster on one hip, and I had to go back all the time and tell the artist we got it on the wrong hip. We gotta change it because it just to keep consistent. So those are little things that, especially if you have a peeve, you kind of pick up on it.
And you can be surprised at who pays attention to that type of thing, especially like my grandfather. He used to watch these westerns. Oh God, the westerns, and it's like, wait a minute, that's a 6-shooter. He been firing that gun for 10 minutes.
10 minutes, yeah.
And they ain't killed all these Indians. Like, how, and he's not reloading.
Right.
You know, they're not reloading. They're just, you know, it's just certain things that, you know, we look at and it's just like, okay. Back then, you know, nobody really paid attention, but nowadays we look at things sometimes really logically, and it's just
it's suspending disbelief kind of thing.
Yeah.
And this is allow it to a certain extent. I was watching there was a Western on Netflix, and these guns, they were using the real old revolvers, the one when you had to put the powder in and use the, you know, it took like technically maybe like 2 minutes to 5 minutes to reload, and that changed the whole pace of the thing. It meant that when these guys were shooting, they dare not miss. Whereas we'd watch the old Westerns where those 6-shooters where they're not reloading and the shootouts are like, you know what? Yeah, so it was a little different, you know. So
I mean, especially like if you do like military scenes or whatever, you'd be surprised what they pay attention to. Like when I went to the Art Institute of Seattle, this guy, for his finals video, he brought up this movie. It had a Shia LaBeouf, Brad Pitt. They were all in the same tank, and Fury. He just basically said, Fury. He's like, real bullets don't sound like that. He's like, and they don't look like that, you know. And it's just because he's lived through. Yeah, he's like I've lived through that. He said they don't sound like this, and so for someone like that, it takes them out of it. I mean,
yeah, you look but at there's also things too where there's a lot of things that are done for cinema because the real wouldn't either be entertaining or it wouldn't. You know, there's a lot of things that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I grew up in the 80s. I had a fear of a car turning over, it would explode because that's the shit we saw on TV. You know what I mean? Or one bullet hitting the gas tank, karate chopped your back ahead. But it's these things that because you know that we kind of upset because we need it to happen in movies. Sometimes there's a fine line between hyperrealism, unless you're doing something that's like a series doc and it's a history event, and you know, fiction, we kind of get a little bit of a little. Silencers don't work like how they work in movies.
Right.
No silencer, none.
Right.
None.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and so that I'll be like, okay, because you have a sound effect for a silencer that is for the audience, but I mean, it also is like it kind of defeats the point of the silencer if you can hear it. Especially when they have a submachine
trading shots with silencers in a crowded fucking, you know what I mean, spot.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, you know, and then having a submachine gun with the silencer, I'm like, okay, yeah, that also is
completely.
I mean, so there's certain there are some things that we learn to let slip, but then there's other things where you're like, okay, wait a minute, that does not react that way naturally, and so we could spend a long time talking about that type of stuff. But for this conversation, Adam, I would say look at the Assassin's Creed example, and with it's
I
can't think of.
I'll give you two spoilers in regards to like Josh's sword and like how he kind of uses it moving forward. So in the next issue, after the next issue, he's gonna get an ability to like basically like the kind of the Thor's hammer sort of recall. Like he's gonna be able to kind of
Mhm.
call the weapon and like recall it from any kind of distance. Um, yeah, I guess that's the only. All right, I'll give y'all like a real spoiler. Actually, do I want to do that? Yeah, I will.
So
No.
you're doing it. That's enough.
Don't
What are you
do.
doing?
Yeah.
That's enough. I mean, you've
That's
done
enough.
enough. I mean, you have done more than your fair share for the
Yeah.
show and whatnot, and for the audience. And real quick, let me see if there's anything. There's nothing else. Okay, we got an additional page. If you want, I'll
Oh,
just
yeah.
go through this real quick.
So yeah, Alpha Team, 30 seconds out, we're gonna collect Strider. They're like, yo, we got a problem. Gunn's like, what does that mean? He's gone. And then we got a shot of Strider kind of flying away, wounded, and to be continued. And
Also, take note of his two different colored eyes too, and then the red eye, the demon horn, blue eye, regular blonde hair. So a duality there between this demon thing and his humanity, I guess.
Strider, his like arc, what happens to him after like these events, I'm actually really excited to get into. I don't know when we'll kind of bring back up or like actually I do know when we are gonna, but like I think it's kind of cool what he goes and does after this.
Oh.
It also directly like relates to like I really I did my big one with this shit, yo. Like, yo, he does the shit that Strider goes on to do, like the shit that he's gonna be doing in the backgrounds. This may or may not be a spoiler. Following this issue, it's like we're really gonna start seeing the effects of that, like reverberating throughout the universe, starting in issue number 4, which is the first issue that like the narrative deviates from Ja, and it's like a completely like different like street level character, and we start seeing like the reverberations on a street level, and it kind of keeps going through that. I'm gonna stop talking now, but
that's great, man. That's great.
Well, we're at 2 minutes. We're almost at the 2:30 second. I thought this would be a shorter show because we cut the questions, but we got really into the book, man. You gave a lot of good insight. Like I said, one of the things I enjoy is the level of enthusiasm you have. Like you really do have. Oh, he froze. So I guess I'll just.
Am I still frozen?
Yeah, you still froze. I'm the only one who doesn't freeze on camera. I just wanted to freeze a little bit. But anyway, no, man, I really enjoy your level of enthusiasm and the effort that you've put into this project, and that's refreshing. And that's something like why I like listening to Comics Explained videos, because he has a genuine love for the media, the hobby and the medium and everything, and then just really loves talking about the stories. Unless it's the Inhumans, because he says they're trash, which I agree. Most of them are trash, especially all the OG ones. They're trash. But no, man. Want to bring you back next week. Hopefully we'll have Troy with us and we can get into the questions of AI. Honestly, I really don't have an issue with blurred, the term, but just how people view blurred in the Black indie space. We get into that, and then I'm pretty sure I'll come up with some other questions. Alan, if you have anything, we'll bring that up then. But once again, Adam, thank you for being with us. Appreciate it, man. And then when you get issue 3 done, hit us up, let us know. Honestly, if you want to come back for a couple more episodes, you're more than welcome. I know at some point in the future, me and Alan are going to get into some other books. We're going to probably come up with the list of books to, go through, especially if we can get the digital files. And then we also want to highlight some Kickstarters that people could support, shed some light there. So
cool. Yeah.
That sounds good to everybody. As per usual, hang on after we're done recording, and then we're good to go. We'll see y'all next week or whatever.
Okay, man.
All right.
Good.
Take it. Yep.